We apologize for that interruption in service, but somehow it just seemed to disconnect on us with the restream. But I want to go ahead and mention again, wish our best to Eva Marie Saint on her 97th birthday this weekend, and hopefully this past weekend, and hopefully she will be able to go ahead and have continued years to come. But yes, celebrating the great North by Northwest and Mount Rushmore on a patriotic weekend, which we hope everyone had a great time indeed. But again, check out all that we're doing here at popculturecosmos.com. But coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about the weekend box office and more F9. So family coming up right after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the show. It's the Pop Culture Cosmos. Want to thank so much Mr. Josh Peterson for hanging out with me on this great July 4th weekend. My friend, the box office happened this past weekend. It was great for F9 as it continues to actually have the kind of success in the U.S. that almost they were hoping with. It's not quite what we were at, of course, at the levels of 2019. It's the box office is coming back slowly, but as we get into the week of what we're going to be seeing by the end with Black Widow, it's nice to see that by the end of the week that Black Widow will have another challenger here in the States in F9, because F9 is going to be, I think by that time, F9 will have overtaken A Quiet Place Part 2 as the number one movie in the U.S. this year.
Yeah. I was talking to my wife about this. Like, I think Black Widow is going to be the movie that takes me back to theaters. You know, like I do want to see F9, but like I feel, and I don't know how you feel about this, but like I was telling my brother, like I feel so far removed from that franchise right now, just because like I haven't watched it in a long time. You know, like it used to be something that like, oh, you and your buddies go and, you know, you'll grab some beers or something and then go watch the movie. But like, I'm kind of an adult now, you know? So like, I don't go to see movies like that with my friends anymore. And like, it's not something that I usually will watch by myself. So I don't know, like that whole culture, I feel very far removed from. And I had a friend who went to see it and he said, yeah, like even, you know, we went to go see it and even it's created a culture of its own. Like me and my friends were there to kind of just like watch it and be amazed and make fun of it. And then there's a whole culture in the theater that are there and they're like serious Fast and the Furious and they're car fans. So he says like the culture of people that watch these movies are different nowadays. And I started to think about that. I'm like, yeah, because like I don't watch it the same way I watched it before. You know, I don't watch it to be for like I watch it. If I watch a Fast and Furious movie, it's because I'm bored. You know, it's not because I want to see Fast and Furious actually sit there and watch it. So, I probably won't be going to the theaters. I'll probably wait to see F9 on, you know, when I can watch from home. But I think Black Widow is going to be the movie that takes me back.
Well, that's awesome to hear. In fact, I think it's going to be the same for us. I know my Marvel loving daughter just cannot wait to see it. So we're going to be, we're going to be doing the same thing. We're going to be catching it on Thursday. So hopefully I will add the review in on the Friday show, the PC Multiverse. We're looking forward to that. So I think it's going to be the movie that brings us back. I'm hoping that it will do just as well, if not better, than what F9 did as far as around the world. So we'll see what happens there. But yes, F9 did take the cake this weekend at the box office, earning another 35 to 40 million. So that's great news for people.
What's our total at now?
The total is going to be right around 125, 130 million. So that it will put it just behind A Quiet Place Part 2. But by the time Black Widow comes out, it should overtake it here in the U.S. I know it's had strong numbers worldwide. Again, these are numbers that are nowhere near what the previous installment did. But again, it's a different climate, and people are just starting to head back into the theaters, so people need to take that into perspective. And I think F9 is, you know, I always have a debt of gratitude for that film because it's helped bring I've helped bring a lot of people back into theaters. Maybe not you and I per se, but it's done a lot to bring people back into theaters as an event film.
Yeah, and that's kind of like what we need, right? Like it's Quiet Place did a great job, but we need something that's more like known to people, something
Yeah.
that reaches a bigger audience. And I think F9 was a good one. I think Black Widow might do okay. I don't know with the simultaneous Disney Plus release, but I think once, like I said before, like I think once the fall rolls around and we get our first like Marvel film that's not releasing simultaneously, then we're really going to see more people going back to the theaters.
Absolutely. And Loki's done very well for the Marvel Universe so far. It's done great numbers from what we're hearing and what we're trying to, what's being inferred by Disney. So it's done great numbers for them. It's taken a lot of people on a ride, whether or not they truly love or truly are kind of perplexed by what's going on
It's
with Loki.
Yeah, it's
So
been very lukewarm. I'm noticing the reviews have been like middle of the road, not leaning one side or the other.
episode 3 was great for me. And in fact, one of the best Marvel episodes I have seen as of yet this year. But
Yeah,
episode 4 kind of brought it back down. There were some things that kind of were muddled and didn't make clear for the audience. So I think that there's still a long way to go with Loki. But so far, it's been okay for me. I've actually enjoyed the Terry Gilliam vibe and the whole English sci-fi vibe that it gives off. I really truly appreciate it. And kind of makes me want to go back and go on a great Terry Gilliam spree on time bandits in Brazil, and then catch a Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy once again. So definitely might go ahead and do that as far as on a day back to back to back when I have the opportunity to, maybe after the Loki series, but still doing very, very well so far. So we're looking forward to going ahead and seeing Loki again. We'll give you a report on that coming up on Friday's show. Marcus and I will go ahead and detail episode 5. But yes, finishing out the box office in the top 3, Universal has the number 1, 2, and 3 films this weekend with the Boss Baby, the latest episode of that. So we're going to go ahead and say, you know what, the Boss Baby has done it's been the Boss Baby family business has done a lot of business at the box office, earning right around 20 to 25 million this past weekend.
that's
So not too
impressive.
shabby. Yeah, not
Yeah,
too shabby at all. Plus, it's going to be on Peacock very soon. If not, it's for Peacock, it's going to do well. I know that, and obviously, it's going to do big numbers for them as well. So this is all, I think, a lot of gravy for them right now at Universal.
yeah. Well, good for them. I mean, this is it's going to be a process, like put it. I don't think it really matters. Like it's kind of a try and fail type thing. They need to just put out movies and see like which ones what gets people to bite and head back to the theaters. Like I know the theaters in town here have been pretty full over the past week, so that's good. Boss Baby might not be an event film, it might not be like a Marvel franchise, but if it's getting people to go back and it's earning some money, good for them. They're part of the process,
Well, what it's doing is taking families back to the movies in their own right. So it's done. It's doing a good job of that. So
Yeah.
I'm very happy that people are starting to go back to the movies. And in third place, just to let everybody know out there, is also a new film. And the guy sounds like nobody's going to talk me off this mountain. The guy in the sound bite sounds like Brad Pitt. Okay, if Brad Pitt were to go back in time, back in the 90s, and do Forever Purge, it's the Purge, the Forever Purge. That movie did 15 to 20 million in its first weekend at the box office. So for the horror movie, and something that is like we talk about, has to remain low budget in order to go ahead and earn a nice tidy profit. Looks like it will earn a nice tidy little profit. But again, big score for Universal, getting the number 1, 2, and 3 spots in the box office. So I look forward to going ahead and hearing some thoughts out there on F9. Can't wait till we go ahead and see it. Probably going to wait until Peacock, though. I'm probably not going to catch it in theaters. But then also as well, we're going to hopefully catch the Boss Baby. That's going to be the Boss Baby Family Business. That's going to be available on Peacock in the not too distant future. And then, of course, you got the Forever Purge. I mean, you're the horror guy. You got to tell me, have you been ever into the Purge series at all?
No, I have not. So I like supernatural horror. I have a hard time with like the people hacking and slashing each other. The Purge is, but I'm fascinated by the Purge. I don't have to watch it, but I'm fascinated by the community that loves the Purge movies, because like I have friends who like those movies, and it's, I don't know, it's kind of like what Clerks was for people like us. You know, like it had a very like distinct draw to it, and there's like a, I don't know, I don't want to say a relation to it because that would be kind of sick, but like I don't know. There's just a unique fascination with that culture, you know, and the people that I know who have watched The Purge, like they all agree that The Purge is like one of the greatest horror franchises out there. Um, you know, and even like the director himself of this last film was saying that he had planned to end it after this, but then just the reaction people have given to like through what 5 movies, 2 seasons of a TV show, people want more. And he goes, you know, I had totally planned on ending it, but then based on the reactions and then just me thinking about it, like there's a very unique culture that revolves around these movies, and I guess like if that's going to be something going into the future, people are still going to watch it, then why not keep making more?
I mean, I've always related to a very low budget horror film
Yeah. Well,
series. I mean,
mhm.
The Conjuring, if you want to relate it, is something that's also come out in this past decade. And The Conjuring has been a little bit more high profile and
Yeah.
actually a little bit more budget wise.
It's
But
James Wan, right? He
yeah,
directs those movies. Okay.
yeah, and it's something like they're been a little bit high, more high profile. It started off as a low budget flick, and it's gotten more and more and more expensive. But still, it's retaining a lot of its audience as it continues to go forward. And even on HBO Max, it's still done decent numbers there. But when it comes to The Conjuring, I always thought of it as I thought of it in the beginning as this this low budget series that I didn't think anybody was really going to get into. But sure enough, several movies later, the series, even though it didn't stick around for too long after 2 seasons, I thought personally that after The Conjuring went off the air, as far as the television series, I thought that was something that the series itself was going to be.
Oh, you mean The Purge?
The Purge.
Yeah.
I thought The Purge after 2 seasons was going to go. Since it went out on USA, I thought, or Sci-Fi, and I thought after the 2 years was done, I thought The Purge itself as a series, as an IP, I thought that was finished. I thought it really had nowhere left to go creatively. Thought it really had nowhere left to go financially. But I'm glad I've been proven wrong, because it's still another horror series that people seem to enjoy.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, and again, as long as people keep watching it, why not keep making more? I guess the challenge there would be how do we craft a story out of this? Like how do we craft a story that is going to make people want to keep watching it? So we're not just, you know, Friday the 13th suffered from this by the time Jason went into space, was the fact that like it was literally just Jason hacking up teenagers with you know the occasional nudity implanted in there. So yeah, I guess like for The Purge, how do you create a story, you know? And then I saw online that like a lot of people are saying that like, oh, this movie's propaganda and all that, but I mean, I think they're just trying to find clever ways to keep this franchise going, and yeah, however you take it is how you're going to take it.
Well, let's just hope they don't take over Manhattan like Jason did. That wasn't
Yeah,
a good
you
move
know,
for them as well.
you know, it could be interesting if they go back in time. Like, what would The Purge look like in like the 18th century? You know?
Oh my gosh. Talk about a prequel. Here we go, Josh. Your favorite thing, a prequel.
I know, but that's fascinating, right? Like a Purge in Victorian era London, you
With
know, and you
another
can like,
Brad Pitt sound alike.
yeah,
The
and you can like
Purge.
you can cross paths with like Jack the Ripper. Like maybe Jack the Ripper like takes that day off because he feels like people are stealing his subculture.
Well, there you go. And we thought America, the motion picture with George Washington wielding chainsaws was kind of out there. I can only imagine what a revolutionary purge would be. But yes, Universal did take the top 3 spots at the box office. So if you have any thoughts, or if you've watched F9, The Boss Baby, Family Business, and The Forever Purge, if you've watched any of those movies, we'd love to hear your thoughts on whether you want to hear your thoughts if we should go out and check out these movies, or if you invite people to do so as well. Share us your thoughts. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Coming up after the break, we're going to be talking about a lot of great things, including the Tomorrow War. That's a big $200 million gamble for Amazon. Did it pay off? We'll find out after the break. Plus, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, the concerns we have over Dynasty Warriors movies on Netflix, and so much more. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back with the Pop Culture Cosmos. It's Gerald Glassford coming right back at you here. And hey, Josh, did you have $200 million to go ahead and invest in purchasing the Tomorrow War? Because that's what Amazon did. Amazon went into a binge in buying some movies, and they purchased a whole bunch of films, Coming to America 2, Borat 2, and now the Tomorrow War. So what were your thoughts on that when you first heard that they've spent $200 million reportedly on buying the Tomorrow War?
I think it's like a late fee at Blockbuster with normal people back when Blockbuster was a thing. It's like the $6 was like an inconvenience, but it overall didn't break the bank. I think that's how Amazon was when they were buying these films. Like, all of our money's tied up in Lord of the Rings, but this we'll buy this Chris Pratt film. It'll just be like a mosquito bite on our bank account.
See, that's kind of concerning to me, because when you look at it, first off, it's reportedly was Skydance, J.J. Abrams' production company, selling off this movie to Amazon. But the thing is, when you first look at it, after the Skydance screen comes up, Paramount comes up on it. So what concerns me is Paramount has this little thing called Paramount Plus, which if you're Paramount, you would think you would normally jump at the chance of a Chris Pratt starring vehicle on your outlet. But you didn't want to fork over the money, even though you've got a producing credit on it. So it's kind of weird, very kind of weird.
Yeah, I wonder if there's some kind of existing contract there, because you think about this, like the Cloverfield movies, right? Like those are Paramount films, but Paramount sold them off to Netflix. So maybe this was something that had been like in the works before Peacock became a thing. Or not Peacock, sorry, Paramount Plus or whatever it is. But maybe this is something that took place a while ago. I don't know. Like, I have a hard time. I haven't watched the movie yet, but I'm reading. We spent some time talking about critic culture, and I've been reading a lot of the comments online, right? Like I went to IGN saying, and they gave it a 4.
Yes, it currently has a 45 rating on Metacritic.
So, but then like what's interesting to me is like I went in and I started reading the comments, and I've seen some of the comments where people are like, "Oh, hey, I don't trust critics anymore, so I'm going to go watch this movie myself." So if anything, these bad reviews have actually made people, it seems like, want to go watch this movie. So now I'm curious, like when all the dust settles, how many people, whether they liked it or not, how many people have actually viewed this movie? Because we talked about, like, do people trust the critics anymore? And reading the backlash around this film is leading me to believe that people don't trust the critics anymore.
And I agree with you on that. They're not trusting the critics as much. I have a tendency to agree with you on that. I think I read those IGN comments too, and how they went back and they watched it, because it has a user rating right around 8 out of 10. And to me, that's even more concerning. And I'll describe why. Is because you can not like the critics all you want, and you can not agree with them all you want. And obviously we've seen that in past weeks, because The Conjuring got raked over the coals. The latest Conjuring movie got raked over the coals, and it still hit #1 of the box office for a week. And then In the Heights, which again, it had a lot of other controversial things aside with it.
Such a weird, In the Heights, such a weird, like, events happening around that film.
Yeah, and even though it's been critically hailed as one of the best movies of the year, and actually has done extremely well on HBO Max, it tanked at the box office, and actually was a very great disappointment in that sense. But then we get to the Tomorrow War, which actually was originally supposed to be a theatrical release, just like Infinite, and that's on Paramount Plus. But it's so funny because again, Paramount's name, it shows up, Paramount's logo shows up at the beginning of the movie, yet they didn't want anything to do with this movie about putting it on their own platform. So that kind of got me kind of concerned. And then I watched the movie. And I laid out this challenge to you to go check it out. And I laid out this challenge to Marcus de la Garza and also Jamie Monroy to talk it out. And I'd love to have a conversation in full for about 30 to 45 minutes, maybe even an hour long about the Tomorrow War, because it is worthy of it. Because I'm going to go ahead and I'll just say this. I agree with the critics on this one. I'm sorry. And you're going to call me a film snob, or you're going to call me anything you want to say on it. But it is more to what the critics are saying. I could go on for days about this movie. And I'll wait till you see it. I'll wait till Marcus de la Garza sees it. And I can see why this movie may never hit or didn't hit the theaters, because it would probably be the type of film that I don't think would get the substantial buy-in from people as if it's on, that you talked about all the substantial buy-in people have about them wanting to go check out this film because it's easy for them because they probably already have an Amazon Prime subscription. But I would think a lot of people out there would not be so ready to go ahead and check this movie out in the theaters, because it's a type of film that would have a decent return in its first week and then totally tank thereafter, because the word of mouth on this movie probably wouldn't be so good.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest, like those sci-fi movies, like I like them. Those types of sci-fi movies, like I enjoy them, but I don't go out of my way to watch them. So I wasn't like excited about this movie in the first place. I remember we talked about this one weekend, right? We talked about the Chris Pratt movie and the Mark Wahlberg movie. This is something, I do, I have been like trying to keep an eye on when it's coming out, and I do plan to watch it, but like I don't have expectations for it, and especially now I don't have any expectations for it. So I do, hearing your thoughts and hearing the thoughts of the critics, like I do want to go in and watch it the same way that the people on IGN were talking. Like I want to go to see it just for like how bad people are saying it is, like, is it truly that bad? And it's the same reason, and we'll talk about Dynasty Warriors here in a few minutes, but it's the same reason that I want to go watch the Dynasty Warriors film, just because they're when someone says that something's like truly awful, it does pique your curiosity, like what's that old saying about negative press is still press?
Exactly. But for Chris Pratt in his own starring vehicles, this one is got to be a problem for him, because this is going to be appearing like a black stain on his resume. But he's still got the Jurassic World series. He's still got the Guardians of the Galaxy. So I think he'll be able to overcome it and still appear in his own starring vehicles going forward. But I think it's going to take a little bit of a hit with the Tomorrow War. I'll just say that.
Yeah. I mean, and again, I'm like curious to see exactly how bad it is. But like Chris Pratt's like, I don't know, he needs certain types of roles to succeed. Like Jurassic Park was good for him. Guardians of the Galaxy was good for him because he could be himself. He's much like Ryan Reynolds. Like you give him a role where he can be who he is, like in real life, and he'll do great things. But it doesn't sound like Tomorrow War is really the right vehicle for that.
No, because he wasn't himself, or wasn't the character that people enjoy seeing, because he wasn't the lovable goofball that I think a lot of people have come to appreciate his comedic work, and none of that. Or actually, I'm sorry, 90 seconds of that was on display in the Tomorrow War. The rest of the film was him in a totally different light, and I don't think it was a good one. With your writing background and your filmmaking background and your attention to color palettes per se, I think, again, I would love to hear your thoughts on it. I would love to go ahead and have a sit down with you and Marcus and Jamie and do this for a whole hour on the Tomorrow War, because it is that epic. And it is that we're talking about, because I think some people in our group are actually going to like it and going to give it a pass. I'm just going to tell you right now, for every individual like me on it, there's going to be other individuals that give it a pass. It's going to be a guilty pleasure for them. And the thing is, I won't understand why, because to me, it's a. I'd love to be.
Is this going to be the King Arthur discussion all over again?
Yeah, it might be the King Arthur discussion all over again, because it definitely is. uh, it definitely is a piece of trash. I'll just say that it's a piece
Okay.
of trash.
All right.
Yeah,
I'll check it this week. I'll get back to you.
yeah, absolutely. And again, I'd love to have a sit down with both you guys on it, or even Jamie too, if he's available. So I'd love to have a discussion on that, so we could go ahead and forward the Tomorrow War. Because again, I know you and critic culture don't get along. I know a lot of people out there don't like to take in critic culture at this point in time, especially in the environment that we have now. But sometimes the critics are right, and sometimes the critics have a reason to go ahead to say what they say. I am a big Chris Pratt fan, and I'm hoping for continued success for him going forward. And the matter, I don't have anybody greasing my pockets to say one thing or another. But the Tomorrow War, to me, looks like a $200 million mistake
Nice, nice.
for both the company Skydance, Paramount for putting their name on it, and for Amazon as well. So they're the biggest losers.
Well, I mean, if you read the story, like you read the synopsis of the film, it does look like a B grade film that, you know, it would pop up on Netflix or Hulu or something.
It tried hard to be a harken back, and I know we talked about Independence Day and the 25th anniversary of Independence Day, the film, on our Friday show. It tried very hard to take you back to that 90s sci-fi, big epic action adventure type genre. The problem is, you know, and we talked about this with F9, where you have to leave your brain at the door in regards to story in order to enjoy it. There's with the F9 and the whole Fast and Furious series, there's always something there to amuse you or amaze you when it comes to the car stunts, when it comes to maybe some one-liners or maybe something lighthearted. It's something in there that's always going to fascinate you. With this movie, unfortunately, there's really nothing to fascinate you except for how epically bad it is.
Yeah,
in my opinion. And I don't have a say in this, financial or otherwise. So I'm just telling you, as someone who sat through the film and cannot get 2.5 hours of his life back, it's just something that if you want to go ahead and see it, but again, we were probably like me and probably would have watched it anyways, even hearing how bad it is, just because, like me, you roll down the window when you pass by a car wreck, and a car wreck, and unfortunately, this is definitely a car wreck of a movie.
All right. Can I change the tone here real quick?
Of course, it would have been nice if they changed the tone in the movie, but go ahead.
I want to do a callback to an earlier episode where we discussed the last blockbuster, right?
Yes.
Finally got around to watching it.
Yes.
Okay.
I remember you telling me.
Yes. Documentary is not the people who made the documentary are not great, but the film is interesting. So if you want to jump from Tomorrow War into something that has a little bit of nostalgic kick to it, the last blockbuster where it's at. I did not know this, by the way, that you can rent your own movies. Like you don't have to have, like back in the day, you had to have like a licensing deal with movie studios. But now anybody who owns, when you buy a DVD, you're purchasing the copyright for that individual copy. So you can go out and run your own movie store if you want to, because this lady that runs the last blockbuster, she gets all of her new releases from Target.
Yes, I remember her too. In fact, that's something that a lot of stores did in the day. They would actually go out and buy extra copies of a movie if it was they couldn't get enough from the distributors. I remember them doing that, and they kind of wanted to put it on the down low because they weren't sure, like you said, about the processing loss. But they would go out to Walmart and Target to buy extra copies just to fill it up.
Yeah, that's interesting. I never knew that, because you always have these people who are like, hey, can I rent out my own movies, and open my own movie store? And the answer is yes, you can. It's like it's one of those gray areas, but it is something that people apparently do. Anyways, last blockbuster, really interesting documentary. If you get a chance to watch it, check it out. It's got kind of tells the story of Blockbuster, what happened to Blockbuster, how this last location stayed open. There's a lot of it's funny because it relates almost exactly to the GameStop fiasco, because much like with Blockbuster, they had these big market investors investing money and basically stealing profits from Blockbuster to fuel these big investments, kind of like what these hedge funds are doing. And, except Blockbuster didn't have retail investors to save it back then. So now, GME obviously has the power of the retail investors, but like it's such a crazy thing how a lot of these companies suffer. And I think Toys R Us had a similar story. These companies are suffering because these high dollar investors are basically putting these companies out of business. It's not so much the lack of sales definitely contributes, but there's a lot more going on behind the scenes financially once a company like goes public. It's crazy.
It is crazy, but I do want to go ahead and say it is a fascinating watch. And you said it's not the best documentary that's out there, but still, just to understand what happened to Blockbuster Video. Also, as well, I did an interview with Alan Payne earlier this year, the writer of Built to Fail, who actually is in the last Blockbuster documentary. But Alan Payne, if you go ahead and want to understand more about the decisions that was made behind the scenes at Blockbuster, I would go ahead and recommend Built to Fail. It's a good read. I enjoyed it, and it really went into depths on the failure of Blockbuster Video. Some of the things that didn't see. I know that the purchasing of Netflix is always talked about as the major mistake in their arsenal as far as Blockbuster Video, the opportunity to buy Netflix, and they didn't do it. But there's other components of their downfall, not, as far as trying to adapt to a modern market, the AT&T purchase, as far as AT&T purchasing them. And there's so much more in regards to what happened with, the reasons why that Blockbuster Video failed, and they just really couldn't adapt and things of that nature. But yes, Built to Fail is a great book and a great read from Alan Payne. If somebody wants to go ahead and after the last Blockbuster, if they watch that on Netflix, goes ahead and checks out his work as well.
Yeah,
absolutely. All right. Well, I'll tell you what, we'll be back in a second to talk about Dynasty Warriors, and also as well, we're going to be talking about Resident Evil Infinite Darkness coming up after the break. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. And we're back to close out the show. This is the Pop Culture Cosmos. This is myself, Gerald Glassford, along with my good friend, Mr. Josh, the killer shark himself, Peterson, the birthday man this past weekend. So we wish him continued success and continued years on this planet. So we truly appreciate it. But also, thank you. Hoping everyone had a great 4th of July weekend. But before we head out, my friend, I know you wanted to touch on Dynasty Warriors, and we will in a sec. But another thing showed up on Netflix, and Netflix has had a lot of hit and misses lately, but they're throwing out stuff. Remember, they're also a dart. They're a dart game waiting to happen because they're throwing nothing but darts out there. Some of it sticks, some of it misses. But the thing that we're talking about right now is Resident Evil, and you're a Resident Evil fanatic, or Resident Evil fan, I should say.
Fan. I don't know about. I've kind of fallen off that franchise in recent years, but Village was amazing. So maybe I can reach fanaticism again one day soon.
Okay. Resident Evil Infinite Darkness. So your thoughts on Resident Evil Infinite Darkness, my friend?
I haven't I haven't watched it yet. I've been reading about it. Like, I know, what was it? There's been a lot of CGI movies that have come out with Resident Evil.
Yeah, this is a 4-part series.
Yeah, and they've been tied into and that's something Resident Evil's always done well, outside their live action films, which obviously, weren't tied into the video game mythology much. They've always done a good job of connecting their stories through these like extra shows and movies and things like that. So I don't, I haven't seen it, but I am interested in watching it. It's definitely, it's on my list for things I'm going to watch this coming week, but this is the right time to make something like that. You look at Castlevania, you look at, there's a Devil May Cry show coming out. Like, this is the right time to make something like that, because there is a fandom for it. And with, after playing Resident Evil 8, I definitely see this franchise having long legs, and, it's great to have, especially since like 7, we talk about 7 feeling like a reboot of sorts. So, yeah. 7 and 8, this is the right time to do stuff like that, because there could be people out there that don't play the games, and they'll turn on the show and be like, oh, hey, I'm interested in diving more into this world, because it's not there's a lot more to it than there used to be.
It's so funny because we beg and we scream and we plead for a Mass Effect movie or series to come to some type of streaming platform. Yet Resident Evil comes out with its like 19th iteration that's coming out as, like you said, Infinite Darkness, and it's a 4-part animated series. So hopefully people get a chance to check that out. But continuing that mythos, but also as well, again, we beg for a Mass Effect series or movie, and just seemingly no one wants to touch it yet. Maybe they will be. We saw the synopsis that was read by.
We're hopeful. Yeah,
we're hopeful.
Henry Cavill.
Yes, Henry Cavill, please do something with this. Come on, you have some stroke now with The Witcher. You can go ahead and do it, man. You can do it. Just create something else in the world of Mass Effect, because there are other video game movies that are out there that are not faring so well, and that is Dynasty Warriors on Netflix, which is getting roasted over the coals. Again, critic culture, you can say or not, but this has turned off a lot of Dynasty Warrior fans to watching it. I mean, because I'm hearing a lot of backlash online because of it, and it just is disappointing because it continues and perpetuates that bad feeling that Hollywood and movie makers have over doing video game related projects.
So, having not seen this one yet, again, gonna watch it this week, but my initial thought here is, and you can add on to this if you want to, of all the movies to adapt, all the video game franchises out there, why Dynasty Wars? There's a little tiny bit of story, but most people play that game to grab long spears and swords and just hack and slash at like waves and waves and waves of enemies. Like, this is, why would you choose this one? This couldn't go right if it wanted to. Like, remember the Great Wall with Matt Damon. That's exactly how I imagine this movie being, and it sounds like that's kind of what this is. Like, there's no substance to it that would make it good for film. And
the Dynasty Warriors series has never been high on substance, on story, or anything like that.
So
it's just kill.
Yeah, I mean, I think I have a feeling that though this was made by like a Chinese company, like it was made for American audiences. And
apparently, I guess.
Yeah, but I feel like that's what they were hoping, because they like knew that, like, I don't think people over here will like this, but we'll make it so people over here can watch it. But those Americans, they're really going to love this. And I think that's going to end up, I think that backfired on them. Again, though, like, it's just disappointing because why? Why would you do that?
Of all the great properties to go ahead and hit, it's maybe Dynasty Warriors is a cheap property to get. So maybe that's why it's all about the cashola. Yeah. Well, that is Dynasty Warriors. That is available now on Netflix. It is not being thought of well. It's not being thought of well right now on, as far as critic culture is concerned. But it's not seems to be getting the same kind of support the Tomorrow War is, at least from the word of mouth. Although my word of mouth says the Tomorrow War is just absolutely not the movie you want to see, but. Again, that's up to you. We'd love to hear your thoughts on the Tomorrow War and also as well Dynasty Warriors. Please share us your thoughts, popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. But before we head on out, my friend, something maybe a little bit more pleasant that you and I wouldn't mind go ahead and check out, and that was introduced over the weekend, and that was Star Wars Visions.
So tell me about this. I hadn't had a chance to even read up on this yet. So tell me what's going on with this.
Well, they released a first look. And it's something that, if you remember the presentation that Disney made to its shareholders, that presentation that they made, one of the things that they glossed over in concern when they did the Star Wars section of the presentation was the Star Wars Visions being a look at Star Wars through a new angle, through the lens of anime. And this is something, as a fan of anime, you are going to be very interested in. They showed off a first look, and it looks amazing. It's going to be 9 different stories. I think from what they're inferring, all of them will be released at the same time. I'm not so sure that they will stick to that. They may go one week, because that's been their MO. But they may, the way they inferred on the Twitter that all 9 episodes or 9 different stories will be contained within, as far as being able to go ahead and be put out later this year. So I'm looking forward to that. But yes, the look that it has is amazing, at least on the one that we saw, the first glimpse that we saw. But it is 9 different stories within the Star Wars universe as told through the eyes of anime. And it really has that look and feel. And I'm really excited for it. This is something I think that can really work out well to bring a lot of new people and new audiences to the anime genre.
So is this like Animatrix? You know how they have a bunch of different anime directors come in and make things like that, and
Yeah, it is and it isn't, because it's full anime, but it's anime based in the Japanese in the Asian culture. It's a Japanese. It's based in that anime culture, and not just an anime version of what Mark Hamill would be like, or an anime version of what C-3PO would be like. It's an anime. It's Star Wars stories told in an anime way, and I really like that fact that they're sticking to their style. And if anybody's familiar with the anime genre, I think they're really going to get a kick out of Star Wars Visions.
Oh, awesome! Yeah, I mean that sounds really cool. Like right now, you know, looking at Star Wars, it needs something that's going to get people to go back to it, especially, you know, with their new properties coming out that they're talking about. But yeah, Star Wars needs new blood. It needs new blood. I mean, and I'm not talking about new blood as in like directors and stuff. I'm talking about like it needs new stories. It needs something that will wash the taste out of people's mouths of things that they might not have liked from this last generation of Star Wars movies. Like it needs, and who knows, maybe born out of this, you know, this new look on Star Wars, we'll get a new franchise that people can fall in love with, and it doesn't necessarily have to revolve around what we've already seen. It could be something birthed from, you know, one of these cartoons.
It's going to be an interesting anthology, to say the least, but September 22nd is going to be the date for release. Again, I'm not so sure it's going to be all 9 at the same time, but they seem to infer it on their tweet. Star Wars did in the Star Wars Vision regarding Star Wars Vision. So I'm looking forward to seeing whether it's 1 or all 9 on September 22nd. Taking a look at it, it is Star Wars Visions, a new way of looking at the Star Wars universe. I'm very excited to see that. And if you're excited to go ahead and check out Star Wars Visions 2, please let us know. popculturecosmos@yahoo.com. Well, my friend, we've come to another end of a fabulous episode. I'm looking forward to, just checking out with Marcus on the Friday show. More thoughts on the latest Loki episode. We'll be talking Black Widow. I may even have a review of Black Widow by that time, but so much is going to happen this week as well. Another great week for pop culture on the way. Any last thoughts on the way out?
No, man. I mean, I think we covered everything. That's I have a lot to watch. I gotta, and I'll have some follow-up thoughts on this stuff next week.
Well, I'm hoping you will. I mean, the Tomorrow War is definitely going to be something that needs to be talked about. Again, I'd love to set aside an episode sometime, or an hour sometime, to talk about it with you, with Jamie, and with Marcus. I would love to go ahead and just sit down with you guys, because there's so many fascinating things to talk about when it comes to the Tomorrow War. I'm sorry to everyone out there that it is, I think, a $200 million gamble that is not going to pay off for Amazon. I'm just also puzzled by the fact that they didn't even try to release it at the box office. That was really kind of weird. But if I'm the guy that's purchasing films, I'm going to be sitting down with Jeff Bezos on Monday in the boardroom, and Jeff is going to go, okay, you did good with Borat 2. You did good with Coming to America 2. You get 2 strikes, buddy. This is your 1 strike right here. Okay. Yeah. You only got one left. $200 million, man. And I think they overpaid by $200 million. But again, my friend, it's just been great talking to you. Again, everybody, I hope you had a fantastic July 4th holiday weekend. If you have any thoughts on the world of pop culture, there's no better place to go than check us out in social media on Facebook, Instagram, and also YouTube. Catch our stuff on Twitch with tremendous tabletop RPG games all week long, and so much more right here at the Pop Culture Cosmos. So for Josh Peterson, this is Gerald Glassford. It's another beautiful day in paradise right here in the pop culture cosmos. We thank you for listening. And here's hoping you have yourself a great day.